She fought for what she believed in.
So you're not allowed to film inside those doors?
No, sir.
Are you familiar with turn reverse driver?
Absolutely.
Absolutely?
Absolutely. And there's exceptions to that, and we will continue to enforce that.
And you're sure that I cannot film?
We've already had this conversation.
I'm just confirming.
Well, if you didn't hear me the first time, I'm sorry. Put back your video. More than welcome to do that.
All right.
We've already had this conversation.
I'm just making sure because I'm making this a detailed complaint for you guys.
Make it as detailed as
So,
possible.
and by the way, I wanted to give you this. Would you like to take it? Because I'm actually the turner and turn reverse driver, by the way.
She fought for what she believed in.
So here he is filming across the street from the police department. Looks like he looked at the gate. I think I edited that part out, but he had been recording the gate. And he's across the street. He's on a public sidewalk. He's not even on the same side of the street as the police department. And I don't believe he ever went into their parking lot, and I don't think he ever went inside. So the officers have arrived. Anyone care to guess how many seconds it takes them to ask for ID?
You got your ID with you?
There we go. Who had zero?
Sir, do you have any ID? Yes, no, maybe?
And just in case you think that I edited that,
How's it going, man? You got your ID with you?
there you go. Yeah, that took about 2 seconds to ask for his ID.
Do you have any ID, sir?
Am I being detained?
For investigation. With everything that's going on in this world, and this, especially involving law enforcement, you're walking around law enforcement facility with a video camera. We like to know who's surrounding our complexes. Do you have any ID? Are you refusing to ID yourself, sir?
So he's not refusing to ID himself. He's declining to ID himself because he's not legally obligated. You can only refuse when it's a lawful demand. It wasn't a lawful demand. It was a discretionary request. He can say no.
What's your name and badge number?
Officer Art Reynolds, ID 3825. Are you refusing to ID yourself, sir?
What's your name and badge number?
2586.
Thank you.
Are you refusing to ID yourself, sir?
Am I being detained?
Yes, you are.
For what crime?
I didn't say you committed a crime, but I have the legal right to detain you for further investigation.
Okay, that's some bullshit right there. So he asks, what crime did I commit? And his response is, I didn't say you committed a crime, but I have the right to detain you pending investigation. No, 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 no. That's not how it works. You must suspect in good faith that he committed a crime, is about to commit a crime, or is in the process of committing a crime. So if your response to him is, I didn't say you committed a crime, but I have the right to detain you, what are you detaining him for? It has to be for a crime that you think he committed. So why is it that you can't tell him what that crime is? It's because you don't think he actually committed a crime. What this is really about is you're angry that he won't give you his ID. That's what this is about.
Depending on the outcome of what's going on, you're walking around a law enforcement facility very suspiciously with a video camera.
Now, he just said he was walking very suspiciously. So from the body cam, this is what it looked like when he walked. Does that look suspicious to you? There is nothing suspicious about that walk. He is on a public sidewalk in broad daylight. He's not trying to conceal himself. He's not surreptitious. He's not giving furtive glances. He's just walking. So clearly these officers don't know what a suspicious walk looks like. So as part of Esquire Audit's public education campaign for law enforcement to learn what suspicion looks like, I'm going to give them an example of a suspicious walk. Now, if you determine that a Cheshire cat, for example, is involved, especially if that person is stroking the cat, that does add to the suspicion. But if there's a handlebar mustache with some twirling at the end, it's all over.
In light of what's going on, we have the right and authority to know who's walking around our facilities.
That's incorrect.
Boom! Of course he's incorrect. Of course he's incorrect. They do not have the right to know who is walking around their facilities. First of all, he's on a public sidewalk. Secondly, those facilities are publicly owned government property. Why on earth would they have the right to know that? They only have jurisdiction over people when they reasonably suspect those people have committed a crime.
Okay, do you have your ID? Are you refusing to ID yourself? Yes or no?
What happens if I don't ID myself?
No? Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay. But you have to tell me what happens if I don't ID myself.
No, I don't. I'm not required to tell you that.
And right there, he proves himself a bad officer because he was presented with the opportunity to answer the subject's question about what would happen if he didn't give his ID and possibly obtain his compliance, which de-escalates the situation. But he squandered that opportunity because he'd rather use it to say, no, I don't have to tell you, and be contrarian, even though that makes the situation less safe for him and less likely that it will de-escalate. So his ego actually got in the way of his better judgment. And that's what makes him a bad officer.
Are you, yes or no? Are you refusing to ID yourself or not?
Once again, what crime have I committed?
I've already explained that to you. I don't need to explain it to you again. Are you or are you not going to identify yourself?
Are you familiar with Texas Penal Code 38.02?
Answer my question.
So the Battousai actually says to him, are you familiar with Texas Penal Code 38.02? Directing his attention to the penal code that would demonstrate that he's not allowed to detain or arrest him because he refuses to give his ID. But the officer cannot be bothered. He's not willing to consider the possibility that he's mistaken. He's not willing to consider the possibility that the subject he's interacting with knows more about the law than he does. This is like when the teacher gives you the right answer and you still get it wrong. Their ego was standing in their way of doing the right thing because they were unprepared to consider the possibility that they were mistaken, even when the subject directs their attention to the proper statutory authority that, if they had taken the time to read it, would have shown that they were making an unlawful arrest.
To not get to answer the questions here. It's my investigation, not yours.
I'm not going to ID myself.
Okay, all right, let's go.
So that's it. He just gives up. Apparently, his investigation has run its course. This is what amounts to an investigation, is that as soon as they've concluded that that person won't willingly give their ID, that's it. Going to jail, putting the cuffs on, hotbox them in the back of the hot Texas Sun car. That's as far as the investigation goes. Why can't they continue their investigation despite the fact that they don't have the person's ID? Is there nothing else of value they could learn? Is there nothing to be gleaned? Is there absolutely nothing they can do to further their efforts to thwart this potential terroristic threat, right? They're worried about this suspicious activity. Why did they just give up their investigation? Come on, this guy's a threat to you. And you're just going to give up because he won't give you your ID? That's it? That's the sign of police officers who have run out of ideas. Or it's further evidence that they never really thought he was a threat in the first place, and the only thing this has been about is they want his ID. And you know what? I'm going to prove it soon. Watch this.
Down. Go. Put your hands behind your back. This is what happens when you refuse to admit yourself. Put your hands behind your back. This is what happens when you refuse to admit yourself. Nope. Just relax. Yep, absolutely. Give us just a minute. West 112, go ahead.
Are you by chance in the parking lot with somebody that was videotaping, officer?
Yes, I am.
So the commentary and that title card is from the original video. So can I just pause for a moment and recognize that this look is not a good look on a police department. This look of black wrists protruding from handcuffs, being held by white hands bent at odd angles for what I can only assume is like pain compliance, for a man who has already been searched for weapons and is handcuffed, suspected of a nonviolent crime. This is not a good look. And just how many officers need to be holding on to him? How many white hands do we need restraining him? What, is he going to run away? This is a person who never used his hands in a threatening manner, who never posed a threat that required this level of restraint. This is not objectively reasonable. This is about teaching him a lesson. It's about power and control. And here we go. Finally, into the pockets, what it was all about all along. He's looking for his wallet. He wants his ID. Now, if he's only detained and not arrested, they're not even allowed to go inside his pockets like this. They're only allowed to do an exterior cursory pat down of the clothing to see if there's anything in the shape of a weapon. And that's it. They're not allowed to go inside the pockets to pull out his wallet for his ID. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment if he's only being detained. And there he is, pulling shit out of his pockets. Well, you know what? That's his shit. It's not your shit. That's his shit. And he has the right to privacy in his shit. That's why there's a Fourth Amendment, because we don't want the police sniffing around our shit. If our shit stinks, that's okay. It's our shit. We're the ones that have to smell it, not you. You want to smell our shit? Go get a warrant.
Any other traffic units have an auto ped 4800 South Fuel?
So they put themselves in a bit of a pickle here, the police did, because when they were sued, their defense was he wasn't under arrest, he was only being detained. They actually argued that in their motion to dismiss. Well, guess what? If we assume that's true, you're admitting that you violated the Fourth Amendment by an unlawful search.
West 112, can you start a supervisor?
I'm handcuffed. Why are you bending my wrist?
National Secretary Supervisor.
Can you? I'm handcuffed. There's nothing
So what is,
to do.
who are you? What is your
Quit
name?
bending my wrist, man. I'm handcuffed. I'm handcuffed, man. You're bending my wrist, dude. Can you let go of my wrist? Can you let go of my wrist? Let's quit bending things.
And he's still holding his wrists like that all this time later. He's still holding his wrists like that. That right there is proof that this is about teaching him a lesson. That's what this is about.
You're straight.
Quit bending.
All I'm doing is holding your hands. I'm not bending it. Which way you want to go?
Just let.
So who are you?
None of your business.
Okay. So you're going to go down and get fingerprinted then. So we figure out who you are. You're playing this the hard way. Why you got to play it the hard way?
Do what I gotta do, man. Do what I gotta do.
All right. You made the choice, not us.
This makes me so mad. This hard way and easy way. No, there isn't a hard way. There isn't an easy way. There's one way, the constitutional way. That's the only way. And this whole, you're the one that made the choice, not us. Really, you two guys are armed with badges and the power to arrest someone, the power to kill someone, and yet he's the one that made the choice. Yeah? Really, he's the one that made the choice. Come on. It's like you divorce yourselves of all agency in the matter. Oh, it was out of our control. He decided to put these handcuffs on him. That was his choice. We were just following along with what he chose. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
We'll log this in as seized property. If you want to identify yourself.
It disgusts me. It disgusts me that they do this. They put someone in a hot car with the windows rolled up, and this is a very dangerous practice. Just watch some of those hot car challenge videos and you'll see it is no joke. It is seriously a life-threatening situation. So what happens next is Lieutenant Driver shows up. He is the supervisor, and we don't know exactly what he says, and we don't know precisely how long the Battousai is made to suffer in the back of that hot car. Why? Because they turned off the body camera. Remember that? So we're left to use our imaginations, and I suspect it went something like this. Lieutenant Driver arrives, and he sees the Battousai lying down across the seats because it's so hot in there. And within probably a minute, he realizes, oh shit, I'm going to spend the next 2 years of my life in fucking depositions because of these two. What were you thinking? We don't have PC for an arrest. We probably don't even have RAS for a detention. Kick him loose. So he's been released from the hot car, walking down the sidewalk, and yet he's still being followed by these officers, including Lieutenant Driver, who apparently would not identify himself. Look at this.
If I could just get one more photo, please, sir.
You refuse to identify yourself. I hope you're not accredited by seller.
So, he is unlawfully detained, he's unlawfully arrested, he's unlawfully searched, his property is unlawfully seized, then he's unlawfully hotboxed, and then when the lieutenant shows up, lieutenant won't give his name. And guess what, Lieutenant? Forevermore, Turner v. Driver, it has your name on it. But I guess that's just what happens when you refuse to identify yourself, huh?
This is what happens when you refuse to identify yourself.
And now he's threatened me with criminal trespass if I ever step foot on the property.
Well, of course he's threatening you with criminal trespass. Of course he is. They can't apologize for the mistake. They have to take pictures of you to put on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, right? Criminal trespass if you come back. Their egos won't allow them to admit that they were wrong. Their egos won't allow them to apologize, so they have to double down. They got to double down threatening you. Well, guess what? The Battousai, he ain't playing. He actually sued them. He filed a federal lawsuit under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, the KKK Act, and he alleged a violation of his First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights. And he lost at district court, so he appealed. He went all the way to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and you are now ready for the deep dive into Turner versus Driver. Put your seatbelt on. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Was a no woman in this life. Short upon the earth now was her time. Of all the seeds she'd sown and the people she had known, Deeply did she touch the soul of mine. She called a spade a spade. She stood on the edge of reason.
And right there, he proves himself a bad officer because he had an opportunity to answer. Oh, shit. To answer. Oh, shit.